Hello? Leslie? Hello? Hey. Hello? Do you guys see Leslie anywhere?
Nah, see you.
Hello? He said he'd meet us out here.
Hey!
Oh, man. Oh, shit. Scared us. Oh, man. Mr. Vernon, I just want to ask you a couple questions real quick. Is there a better podcast out there than the Mouths of Madness?
No.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that. Just one more thing. And any last words for our audience before we get into your episode on your movie?
It is going to get wet in here tonight.
So you are afraid of something.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
You don't know what death
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Now,
Welcome to the madness.
we are the Mouths of Madness, your new favorite podcast for horror movie reviews. We're coming to you live tonight from the Dungeon of Doom. This is our episode 11 on the 2006 Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. My name is Kevin, and let me introduce you to the other members of Madness. First, we have Dan. Dan, did you bring your copy of Grey's Anatomy? Is that a part of your preparation?
It's definitely a part of my preparation, Kevin. You got to have a solid knowledge base if you're going to be a podcaster.
Yeah.
And, another part of my preparation, I really pride myself in voice quality.
Yep.
So the weeks leading up to our podcast recording day, I talk to no one.
Oh.
I just to preserve my vocal cords.
Whoa.
Makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Well, next, we have the mayor of Halloween Town, Bearclaw. Oh, wait. Shit. We forgot him in the sensory deprivation.
Not again.
Dan, can you go dig him up for us? Last, we have the youngest member of Madness, my son Logan. Logan, looks like you've been doing some exercise and you're looking in great shape.
Yeah, I gotta be able to get through this podcast without getting winded.
Oh, yeah. Gotta have good cardio, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that makes sense. Oh, man.
All right, buddy. All right, have a seat. Have a seat here.
Bearclaw.
All right, buddy.
There he is.
What year is it?
Oh, it's 2024, man.
Is Johnny out of the trial yet? Is
Johnny?
Johnny Depp, is he out of the trial with Amber Heard?
Oh, man.
She pooped right on his bed.
Yeah, that did happen.
That was a long time ago. How long were you in there?
Oh, God. How long was I in there?
Oh, man. I'm sorry, folks. We left him in there too long, I think. Dan, you dug him out pretty quick, man.
So fast.
I know.
Gotta get your cardio in.
I know, man. That was our bad, Bearclaw. We apologize.
Hey, guys, I found the answer.
The answer to what?
Just the answer.
Sounds very ominous.
The answer to life?
Ooh. I know that there are a lot of other great horror movie podcasts out there, but what separates us from the other ones is that we're going to be giving you the older versus younger generation perspective. Myself, Dan, and Bearclaw are the old timers, while my son Logan, he is the new blood. Now, before we get into the episode, I want to plug some of our stuff and where to find us. Please go follow us on Instagram at mouths.of.madness. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that's at Mouths of Madness. We have a new straitjacket talk on the movie Jennifer's Body with special guest Jill from the It Slays podcast. Please go check that out now. And finally, we have our email address. Please email us at thepaddedroom@outlook.com and let Bearclaw know if you would be our perfect survivor girl.
Yeah, and also, if somebody could send me like a summary of the last couple of years, that would be huge.
Yeah, there's a lot
That's
that
at
happened.
the padded room at outlook.com.
Yeah, Phil Bearclaw in on what's been going on. Now, for our content consumed this week, we're going to let you know what we've been watching, what we've been listening to, what we've been reading, or gaming. Now, for me this week, like I said before, we did do a review on Jennifer's Body for Straitjacket Talk. So I did watch Jennifer's Body. And I'll tell you what, watching it again, it is so good, so underrated. I definitely suggest, if you haven't seen it or it's been a while, go watch it again and then watch our Straitjacket
Wonder
Talk.
why you
I
like
did it in the opposite order. I watched the Straitjacket Talk. Now I got to go see the movie.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually also have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't want to watch the movie.
Oh,
Whatever. We all know why you watched it. Why most people watched it.
well, yeah, but if you watch a review on it, that's part of the issue with Jennifer's Body. It really is a good movie. I really recommend actually giving it a chance, Logan.
Sure.
Also, this week, I've been listening to the new Pearl Jam record, Dark Matter, which is pretty good. I really recommend taking a listen to it. You know, I know they're an older rock band, so some of you kids out there might not be familiar
Well, we all
with
know
them,
you're old, so that's your perfect market.
but I definitely recommend checking it out. All right, Dan, what do you have this week?
I don't know about you guys, but I enjoy YouTube. I enjoy YouTubers. And one of the things I don't know if anybody's ever had this happen where like you watch a YouTuber and then you kind of forget about them and then you rediscover them.
Happens to me
Yeah.
all the time.
I
I'm a
read a
YouTube junkie, and that.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I won't have anything good, and then I'll go through my subscriptions and be like, oh, I love the. And then,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that happened to me this week. I rediscovered this YouTuber called In Deep Geek, and he covers like A Song of Ice and Fire novels.
Oh,
He does a lot of
nice.
Lord of the Rings stuff
Lord of
too.
the
I've
Rings.
watched a lot of his stuff.
Yeah. I recently kind of got back into him and like his covering of the Song and Ice and Fire thing.
Yeah.
So I've been like kind of throwing that on as a background thing while I'm working from home during the week, and it's been cool, kind of just rediscovering him and how detailed and good of a job he does, like researching the lore of the books and everything. It's nice.
There's just so many good things. There's another one, Civilization X, if you like that you should check out.
Yeah.
That he does like summaries. He did the Fallout summary for like all of the games, like the timeline, and he does like a half hour long. Really great.
Yeah.
The lore videos.
Vedi Vidya with the Elden Ring.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
I've seen him, all of his stuff for Armored Core, all of his stuff for Bloodborne, Soulsborne. Vin Vignata is awesome.
Wow.
A lot of YouTube love.
Yeah.
Gotta love it. Is that it for you?
Gotta spread it.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Bearclaw?
I've just been watching that Fallout, the new Fallout show on Amazon. Can't say enough good things about it. I love Walter Goggins. I think he is absolutely
Yes.
hilarious.
He's
He's
awesome.
hilarious in Righteous Gemstones. That show is just beyond hilarious to me. He really adds to like a stellar cast for the Fallout show. And I mean, it is kind of, it's pretty horrific, some of the situations that they get into. So I think if you enjoy horror, I think Fallout would also be something, kind of the weird, wacky nature of it. I feel like you'd get in there. And I've also been back into the wasteland in the games. I've started a new file in Fallout 4 because they just came out with new DLC and update that, so now it's native on the consoles, which is pretty cool.
Real quick, is the dad Detective Cooper from Twin Peaks?
This is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.
Yes, he is.
That's what I thought.
Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah.
Also the mayor in Portlandia. And
Also in Dune, he was
Yeah.
the Lynch Dune.
Lynch's Dune. He was Paul Muad'Dib.
Atreides.
Yep,
Yeah.
Paul Atreides. Yep.
Pretty cool.
Very different than Timothy Chalamet.
He's
Yeah.
done some horror stuff too.
Yeah.
I can't
I would
remember.
consider Twin Peaks kind of
Yeah,
horror.
Yeah.
Twin Peaks
Yeah,
is
it's
very
horror.
horror. Yeah.
Is that it for you,
That's
Bearclaw?
it for me. Yeah. Watch that Fallout show if you get a chance.
Awesome.
It is great.
All right, Logan, what do you have for us?
Well, usually I'm all over the place, but I think this week I was very, limited with the work I had to do for school, but I did get a chance to finally watch Late Night with the Devil, a movie I've been trying to watch. I've been hearing a lot of good things about it, so I was finally able to watch it, and it was a really good movie. I highly recommend it to everyone. Like, it is it is one of those movies that I can just sit down and enjoy and kind of like, it's one of those horror movies. It's not really like, it's not like slasher kind of horror like the movies we're used to. It's more psychological, and I love those kind of movies. We don't get a lot of those, but now that we are getting into this A24 era of horror, it's becoming more of a regularity in movies. Like I know Talk to Me had a lot of that. One of the movies we did cover in this was Hereditary, and I feel like it has kind of the same vibes, kind of that indie vibe of horror. So
that's kind of a good foreshadowing, kind of going into our discussion about this movie and how it identifies kind of all the slasher tropes and genre. I think. But
yeah, I like independent horror movies.
Yeah,
they're very their own thing. They're
like,
unique.
Yeah.
A24 horror.
Yeah. Yeah, I am an A24 horror.
Nothing wrong with that.
I did get into Elden Ring this last week.
Oh, welcome.
Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless.
Yeah,
Welcome.
it is something. I've definitely
Welcome to
died
the-
like 500 times.
Yeah,
Welcome to the lands between.
And I've had to wait 50 minutes probably each time waiting to get into another boss battle that just happens every 2 minutes.
Elden Ring is like its own like lament configuration. It's like there's the pain, but you
I
love
have
it.
so many horrors to show you.
I have so
I
many
love-
horrors to show you.
My favorite thing though is I love to set up my character, and I was so glad I got to do like all the different things, everything I had on him. Like I spent a good 30 minutes getting my character all ready, and it was a good 30 minutes spent, but I'm very excited to get into that. I'll probably be talking about it a lot more because, it's a long game.
Yeah, I got 150 hours logged, which is not that much, all things considered.
Now, without any further ado, grab a beer, pull up a chair, hold on to your straitjacket tight, and let's dive into the madness. We watched Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon from 2006. It was directed by Scott Glosserman and also written by Scott Glosserman along with David Stevie. What's cool about this is Glosserman had done his college thesis on horror movies and specifically on The Shining. So he was a huge horror movie, let's just say, fan.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially Stephen King horror movies, it seems like, because there's a lot of references. The Turtles are to Pet Cemetery. Doc Holleran, isn't his name? It is a mixture of Doc and
Dick
the
Halloran.
guys. Yeah. Yep. Dick Halloran. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Easter eggs in this movie, and it's kind of, it's made out to be a mockumentary, but I think it's kind of an homage, which is very cool.
An homagumentary, one would say.
Ooh, fancy schmancy.
Now, Behind the Mask had a budget of $800,000. Do you know how much it grossed at the box office?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with $5 million.
$5 million. Logan.
I'm gonna lowball it. You gotta imagine though, this is an independent movie, so I'm guessing it didn't do as high as we were thinking. I'm gonna go a nice 80,000.
All right, damn.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought mine was going to be low. I was going to say like $350,000.
Oh, Logan's the closest, but with Price is Right rules, you're over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lower than Logan's?
Did it go straight to DVD?
It only made $69,000. It did go to a limited release. Of
Okay,
movie theaters,
yeah.
So it wasn't straight to DVD. But this was 2006. A lot of, especially horror movies at this time, were straight to DVDs. So
Yeah, there was a lot of that in that time frame. I remember you'd go to the video store because that's
You
still
can go
what
to the
did.
gas station.
Yeah, or like
That was
That's right,
2006.
too. Yeah, because the Redbox and stuff was big around this time, and Netflix was
Oh
big.
man,
so a
I
lot
miss
of
Redbox.
stuff- A lot of stuff was, and this was when Netflix was. You actually got envelopes.
yes, the envelope. Oh God, I hated that.
Oh yeah. And
Bring back Blockbuster.
This is an 18-year-old movie. That's insane. But like the change in times has definitely occurred.
Logan, this movie came out the same year you were born.
I know.
wow.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
Movies
I miss
as old as
Redbox.
you.
I miss Redbox. I miss Blockbuster. I miss all those old video.
Brick and mortar. Bring it back.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, currently on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 76% critic score and a 75% audience score. So this is certified fresh. And actually, audiences and critics are almost like dead on with each other, which is pretty crazy in this movie. Now, this was my pick for this episode. So the reason why I chose Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, is something actually we talked about. I remember going into Blockbuster, I believe, at that time, because it was still around, 2006. It hadn't been gone yet. But I remember seeing the cover and, you know, with the Leslie Vernon and the mask.
The mask is definitely compelling. Like it is, that would draw me to it.
Yeah, it had some like cool lettering too on it, and the blue light. The blue light effect was cool, but it also had, you know, kind of this cool tagline and stuff. So if you're a fan of Freddy, Jason, Michael, like this was your movie. So I was like, whoa, I gotta get this, you know, obviously. And, you know, it's one of those things where you put it in and I'm watching it and I'm like, this is different than I was expecting.
This is going in some very different directions.
I had a very similar experience with a lot of movies, except in the other direction.
Well, yeah, I mean, to me, one of the things why I picked this movie is because it was one of the most different movies I've seen, and one of the most different horror movies I've seen, and unique. And as a fan of the slasher genre, I was really compelled by this movie, and it did do something different. Now, before we get into the discussion, I want to do a spoiler alert for this movie because
if you haven't seen it, watch it before I
feel like we haven't done this before.
Yeah,
so this movie makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like the twist in this movie is such a big part of
the third act.
Yeah,
and what it ties everything together.
Yes.
So I don't want to ruin it for somebody who hasn't seen it. And you know what? I'm gonna start this review off anyways, because I don't know what these gentlemen think about this movie yet. We haven't really talked about it at all. But what I'm saying to our audience is, if you're a horror fan, please, I recommend this movie. Go see this movie. Go see it and then come back and then listen to us on it, because I really think this is a must watch.
Or do it the other way.
You can catch it on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
Right now. Yes.
Right now.
100%. So go do that. Go look on YouTube.
Everyone loves a little bit of freedom.
Right. But to me, this is a must watch for any horror movie fan. I think what we kind of talked about at the beginning is it's made out to be this mockumentary movie, but it really is an homage to horror. And yes, the slasher genre specifically, but like I think what it does so well is it makes horror feel like important and cool and kind of a part of the real world, so to speak, you know? Like, I remember when we did our review on Reanimator, right?
Right.
And we said that what makes Reanimator work so well is their level of, you know, taking their roles seriously.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie does. They take their roles seriously.
Yeah.
Some might say they took it a little too seriously.
Well, yes, that's true. What was cool on this, I watched this with Logan, right? And we were watching it going along, and Logan was having really the same watch as my first watch, which was cool to witness.
Really?
Because Logan kept being like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, you know, what is this? Remember, you were like, oh, this is different than I've
Yeah, because like I was telling you before, like as we were getting into the nitty gritty of it, I was like, I don't know anything about this movie. I didn't see anything beforehand. All I've seen was the poster and like a little bit about it. So like I knew what it was trying to be, but I didn't know like anything really about the plot. So I was going into it like open-minded. I was like, it's gonna be a very different movie, and I know your taste in movies, so I'm like, this is probably either gonna suck or really be good. So
Yeah.
you have a wide range.
Yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, I could tell.
Or a Halloween 5.
I could tell you. No, well, you you had the kind of beginning of what I felt at the beginning too. Like, what is this? Like, this is different than I thought it would be. And then, going along, it pulled you in little by little. And then, all of a sudden, man, that twist happens in the third act, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, you're like, this is something cool. Like, this is what makes the movie. Now, open discussion. What were your guys' thoughts on this movie? What did you feel like? Is this your first watch of Behind the Mask?
So I'll kick it off here with this is my first watch. I went into this totally blind. Didn't know anything about it. I was introduced to it, and I really respect that the effort that went into it, and a lot of the I watched it all the way through. I had to watch it again afterwards because I went through this movie and I really enjoyed the acting. I think all the acting was really great. I think, Robert Englund was fantastic in it. I think that, conceptually it was pretty okay, but there was something about this movie that I didn't like and I couldn't put my finger on it. And it was very hard for me. And I was struggling because, I thought there was something that I just didn't understand. And that's why I kind of had to go through it again and really, really kind of think about it. And I got to where going through this movie made me think about my relationship with horror.
Oh, okay.
And what is my relationship with horror? And why do I like horror movies? Right? And this movie made me think about that a little bit because I couldn't figure out what I didn't like about this because there was a lot of things that I should have. And as I was thinking about, that's kind of one of the questions, one of the topics I'd like to talk about today with each of us is kind of like our relationship with horror, because I'm curious to see where everybody else comes with on this or comes from on this. But, when I think of horror, I think of, one of my favorite quotes, the oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear. And the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And that's coming from H.P. Lovecraft. And I think for me, horror, what I love about horror is it is not the mundane. It is not systematic. It is the breaking of the system. It is something has become unsafe. It is that unknown fear, and the unknown is a big part of that for me. And, it's and that uncertainty. I think about the different horror movies that we've covered and stuff like that. And the thing that gets me, or the most interesting and the best horror movies, have this element of unknown and fear. And where this is crescendoing to is my big criticism of this movie is it takes that and it makes it more mundane and it brings it down to earth. And it's not something that's supposed to be brought down to earth, and it's not something that's supposed to be
supposed to be taboo.
Right. It's supposed to be. It's not something that's supposed to be kind of normalized. And this movie doesn't do it in a taboo way. It just looks like somebody who's getting caught up into, that whenever an investigator gets really caught up into the world of the person they're investigating or something like that, like a kind of Stockholm syndrome or something like that. But I think that's what got me with this is that there's not, it's kind of, it didn't inspire anything better in me. It kind of made horror, it made the horror more mundane than I think I liked it. And then it just kind of, the movie kind of fell a little flat for me. And frankly, the twist, I mean, I could have pointed that out the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie. Not saying but I mean, you could kind of just see that's the way this thing was going. But I still give him a lot of credit. I mean, I've never made a horror movie, so I can't talk too much trash. I mean, it's still a coherent movie. It's still a fun movie, I think, to a certain kind of degree. But I don't know, the way they kind of try and almost justify or horrific killing or try and say that they're the darkness that's going to inspire greater good. Trying to throw that philosophy even in there is very I don't know. It's just
unnecessary evil.
Yeah, unnecessary evil or something. Yeah, I mean, and they didn't even play on that hard. Which, if they had, it might have made more of an impact.
it's kind of cool, like with that specifically, you know, when they have that talk with Eugene and he says for there to be good, you have to have evil. That's concepts though that we've seen run in horror a lot lately too, especially with like the Rob Zombie movies specifically. Like Devil's Rejects is such a great example, you know, and they're taking that concept of there's good but there's also evil. I think like what you said is very true, and what our relationship with horror is. I think for me personally, I'm not trying to sound like a tough guy, but like not much actually scares me, right? So like when I watch a movie, you know, I don't generally come away from a movie with fear or terror or like, you know, anything like that. So what I look for in a movie, a horror movie specifically, is something I do look for fun. I gotta tell you, that's a big part of what I look for. I look for something different, some new level of, you know, either kills or, you know, twist or something like that. Something I haven't seen before. And, you know, something that I would perceive as being scary in a way, too. So,
yeah, for me, like the greats, there's always that element of, because for me, it's the unknown and the macabre and the weird. That's my relationship with horror. That's how I connect with it and why I connect with it and why I love, you know, like the Candyman or like, you know.
To your points, and I'm not telling you how to feel on this movie specifically, but I kind of agree with what you're saying, that this movie, I don't think is necessarily scary, right? Like it doesn't do horror, but I think there are actually some legitimate scary parts. And the scary parts for me are, first off, they kind of lull the audience into this kind of false sense of, like, I remember watching with Logan. Logan's like, well, why isn't this documentary crew, like, what is he doing? Like, what, you know, and it, I don't know if it's supposed to be a greater kind of theme of we're so desensitized to, you know, these horrific things.
It's also 2006.
But I think what it does is it lulls the audience into like a false, like everything is okay, like this isn't really that serious.
Well, it's because Freddy, Jason, Michael, Chucky, all those slasher guys, they exist in this world. To Bearclaw's point, you've normalized these, you know, unknown, unstoppable forces, and they're kind of like these trivial people in society.
Right? Yeah. I think though what was scary in this movie were the real scenes. And when I'm talking about real scenes is Leslie Vernon, who's played by Nathan Baesel, who I do want to talk about because I think his performance as Leslie Vernon is great.
Oh yeah, all the performances, I think, well, most of the performances I'd say I think are very excellent in this movie.
I think what he does really well is he's so charismatic with the role as Leslie Vernon, and he also lulls you into this false sense of like, because he's like all over the place. He has like ADHD or something like that.
Yeah. You see, the thing is though, and he does such a good job of lulling, but the problem is that never, in my mind, he was never like a true like threat.
I hear you, but I think that's what makes these couple scenes work really well, what I'm going to mention. Okay. The first one is when they break one of his rules, which is do not talk to Kelly.
You asked if you could talk to her. I told you no.
And they go into the diner and they go to talk to Kelly.
That's one of my favorite scenes where he reacts to them.
Reacts, yes. And he grabs Taylor, you know, he's all like, okay, calm. And then boom, pushes her up against the van in her face. Now you know that this is not just some, you know, random guy doing
the
fun
scene
things.
That got me though was the scene where he's talking to Taylor and Taylor's like, so you're lying to me about being like, why would you lie about this? And then he sees the camera and he goes, turn that off.
Yes.
And that just sinister look was just like, holy shit, this guy is not messing around. Like, you don't want to mess with this guy. Like, I know, because what Bearclaw was saying, like, about, like, normalizing it is because I think in this movie, it's supposed to be normalized because it's a documentary. You know, like, usually with documentaries, it's very, like, mundane and, you know, very, like, this is what we do. This is everything. Like, documentaries aren't supposed to be like this.
A movie.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be like a grand stage or, like, you know, it's not supposed to be like an action movie. It's supposed to be like a understanding or a metacognition of, or a psychoanalysis of this person, this place, this thing, this event, whatever happened that occurred. So going into the mind of a serial killer and being this mundane is kind of ironic in a way. It's kind of...
Well, it kind of makes them normal.
Yeah,
that's my...
Exactly.
But that, like, okay, let me contrast Leslie Vernon to somebody else to see. This would be, I think, more how I would think it would be better for, like, the killer to be played. Think about, like, a Hannibal Lecter.
Okay, I was gonna say that exactly, and that's such a great point. And I think I have kind of a hot take, but to me, Leslie Vernon is like a Hannibal Lecter type of character, because if you think about it, right, and I'm not talking about Hannibal Lecter on the scale of like eating people and all that stuff, and when he's trying to be scary specifically, but there are scenes in I'm talking Silence of the Lambs, the original, not the other movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
He seems like a very normal person until he's not.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
And that's what
I mean, I don't even for me though, like I see him and like he's a very likable character, but there is some sort of like it's like this veneer, like there is this like unnerving kind of like rage bubbling underneath him, and it's like the mask kind of slips off on like the little triggers, like we were talking about, mentioning his real name, filming him like breaking his rules and shit like that, and then like mask comes off and he's just...
You know what though too, the scariest scene in my opinion in this movie is when the twist happens. So the documentary crew is following Leslie. Leslie describes his plan for what's going to happen, how he's going to take his rightful place at the throne of the other serial slashers and kill these kids at his farmhouse, right? He's going through his plan, whatever, and the documentary crew realizes that they can't do this, right? And they leave, but then they come back because they're like, we can't let him just kill these kids, right?
And the documentary stops and it starts
becomes
the
cinematic.
omniscient,
Right.
cinematic.
Then it becomes a cinematic
event.
movie.
Yeah.
But the scariest scene to me is when he chases down, I believe,
the
Doug?
cameraman.
Yeah, was it Doug, the cameraman?
Yeah.
And Todd. Sorry, he
Todd,
chases down Todd, right? And he's on top of Todd.
He takes the mask off and he just stares at him.
Todd takes the mask off Leslie, right?
Oh, okay.
Unmasking Leslie, right? And he's like, it's me. It's Todd.
Look at me, man. It's fucking Todd. It's Todd.
And what I thought the movie did so well is there's almost this bromance throughout, right?
Yeah.
You know, he's like, "Hey, do you
He
want to see a
hesitates,
magic?
too.
Do you want to see a magic trick?" He's like, "Oh, I don't have cards." He's like, "Check your pocket."
Your pocket. Yeah.
And
Like, holy shit.
Yeah, Todd's like, "Oh, and like, oh man, that was so cool throughout." And then this scene when Leslie's on top of him, he takes the mask off Leslie. He's looking straight at Leslie, and he's like, "It's me. It's Todd." And it doesn't stop him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Breaks his neck.
He does hesitate.
Yeah,
for
he
a
does
minute
hesitate.
for a dramatic effect, but I don't know if it's
unnerving silence.
That's what I thought too. It was like an unnerving silence. Like he's not here to stop.
Yeah.
Like,
See, I and maybe I have to watch it a third time, but I never got what you guys got as far as like the menacing undertones with him. I think that was maybe
I love it.
What?
Yeah.
Maybe that's where because he seemed like he was quantifiable. And you want somebody, and I feel like Hannibal Lecter never seemed quantifiable.
What do you mean by that?
Like Hannibal Lecter, even in his civilized, normal thing, was still a weirdo.
Yeah.
He was still like the number one crime psychologist and was still like a very eccentric person, eclectic. There was like notes to him that made him, and the Leslie outside of being Leslie Vernon is kind of just
a
dude.
But that's the thing though. There is a backstory to Leslie that we don't ever really know, which I thought was actually kind of a cool thing.
That's
like
the worst part of it.
You know, like that. See, I thought that was cool because I don't want to know the backstory of Leslie, but they only hint at it because we find out from
even that
Robert Englund, who plays Doc Halloran, that he was his doctor, and Leslie's from Reno, Nevada. His real last name is Mancuso.
Yeah.
See, I didn't care about that. Well, because
I agree with you.
I think though, but like you're saying, like about like the backstory is like the backstory for me. It wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary to even bring it up. Like, yes, bring in the Ahab, you know, like the Doc Halloran, because you gotta have.
We have an Ahab.
You have to have an opposing adversary in the story. That's how horror movies work. Yeah, it's got to be somebody that goes up against him that knows something about him. That's fine. They didn't have to bring into this whole thing that he's not Leslie Vernon, because it's like who cares?
Well, not only that, Logan, to piggyback off of you, it almost muddies the lore of Leslie Vernon itself. It's like, okay, let me get this straight. He is effectively building up this lore so that he could become like one of the next all-time like great serial killers in this reality.
Yeah.
He's created this lore. The town seems to really kind of go along with it. Like the kids in the town seem to believe this lore. And it's like, so wait, how is it that if the lore exists in the town, like the town people know about the lore, like how is it that he created it and like he's creating this lore? Like he can't
like a
create
rumor.
the lore.
I hear what you're saying.
And it be like you can't have it both ways.
For me, I think there were a lot of questions with that, but to me, like, do I want them all answered? I don't know. I hear what you're saying.
No.
Like, it is muddy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, oh, yeah, well, it all makes sense. It doesn't.
Right.
You're right.
I
You're
wasn't
right.
there, though, to, like, learn about him, because, like, my least favorite thing about horror movies is explaining why they do what they do.
Yeah, like, you love Michael Myers, for instance.
But,
right?
like, it almost felt like they had...
I don't like that part of Michael Myers.
Well, so, Logan, tell us about...
You're confusing me.
Tell us about your relationship with horror. What are the characteristics you would look for in a horror movie?
So how I'm going to get into this is basically just going into what I like in normal movies, as well as like my kind of book like knowledge. It's like I love psychological explanations, not like a whole like on the outside kind of way, like, you know, your genetics or your family or whatever like that. So one of the books I was reading is a character who thinks that just by being chivalrous, they can become the best person of all time. You know, like those kind of stories always are very like, they always get me into it. You know, like I don't care about like who they are, what they do. I just care about the break in personalities, the break in everything that they do. And it kind of just shatters, you know. One of my favorite horror movies is The Shining. It's also one of my favorite books because of this break.
I could have predicted you saying that as soon as you said my favorite thing is the break. I was like, where is there a greater break than all work and no play?
It's The Shining because it's
Lloyd.
It's why like I'm not a person that likes gore. I'm not a person that likes body horror. I like psychological thrillers. I'm a man who likes the A24 of it all, because they're very like, you know, they got Florence Pugh, so that's one of the reasons. But what I really like about it is this just disconnect from reality. I don't like normalcy either in movies. Like I don't like when people are just like, oh, I'm just gonna kill people because, you know, I feel like it. You know, I don't like that. Michael Myers is different because it's Michael Myers. He's got a cool factor to him. He's got the mask. He's got the whole look. It's iconic. But like this kind of character, Leslie Vernon, isn't my type of horror because of them going into like his whole backstory and everything. I like a person that has this kind of
unknown.
The unknown, yeah.
But wait a minute. Technically, this is an unknown because we don't know the real Leslie Vernon.
Yeah, but even bringing up like that he has a past or that he has like this kind
we
of...
We know nothing. We know he's from Reno. He had a doctor. He has a restraining order.
Yeah, but like
on,
I'm saying is it's enough that I just don't want to hear anything about it.
To my point that I was going to say earlier is it almost feels like they got Robert Englund at the last second and they were like, how do we fit Robert Englund into the movie?
So they actually did get Robert Englund at like the last minute. He was
Yeah, you could have predicted
Nailed it.
that.
yeah, he
Came in.
he was the actor they wanted for this role, but they weren't sure if they could get him. Once they got him, he actually was the one who recruited Scott Wilson to come in and play the role of Eugene, which I thought was a perfect
That was awesome.
role.
That was pretty awesome. Yeah.
Eugene was awesome.
Can we talk about that, Eugene? Because that's like some of
Eugene's
my
the best
favorite
part of the
scenes.
movie. Yeah, I did enjoy the like tongue in cheek of Eugene and
that he was like a
that
father
whole-
figure
yeah.
to.
Do we all know who he's supposed to be?
I actually read this, so I know
I'm not familiar with the
Oh,
movie.
please
but
tell me.
He is
Somebody near
supposed-
and dear to your heart,
Yes,
Logan.
He's supposed to be Billy from Black Christmas.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So originally in
And I guess that and
in the script, there were going to be tons of on the nose references to him being Billy. They since really peeled it back and, didn't give you the on the nose things. There's some big lines, though, that indicate that he's Billy.
Yeah.
He takes shots at specifically the sorority.
Calling them hacks.
Sorority,
Hacks,
yes,
yeah.
sorority house massacre movies from the 80s. That's it.
There's always been hacks out there. People mucking it up.
Call them hacks. Those movies are all based on Black Christmas.
What's funny about that too is when he was talking about that, I'm like, he can't be talking about Black Christmas, can he?
No, that's him. He was feeling protective, And the other cool little Easter egg with Eugene specifically is he was also supposed to be the killer in the Toolbox murders. He's a
That's
double.
the one I learned.
Yeah, he's a double dipper.
The Toolbox Murders.
Everyone
what's
was
that?
double
It's
dipping.
another horror movie.
That's an oldie, like from the '60s, right?
Well, and in their house, for all you Hellraiser fans out
Yes.
there, there was the
Lamentation.
lament configuration was hanging out on his coffee or his
Yeah,
like
end table. Yep,
yeah,
right next to Leslie
Oh,
Vernon.
every great house needs that.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. I mean, you definitely need a portal to the god of pain.
It goes with the room.
Yeah, tied the whole thing together.
Well, how cool is that, man? He's supposed to be Billy. I thought that was a cool thing.
And keep in mind, there's not like a hate for this movie. It's more of just a little bit of a distaste from my
I
end.
gotcha.
And I would say, but I loved the references. I loved the acting. I loved that Eugene was Billy. I loved that he said, "Well, Jay and Mike," like Jason and Michael Myers.
Oh
and
man,
like,
I love that whole dialogue scene on the outside when he's grilling. just normal.
yeah,
out
just
there
like,
grilling.
oh yeah, it used to be so much better, kid. And like, I don't know, like that part. I think one of the mistakes of this movie is that they didn't go more comedy with the movie.
Yeah.
I think if they had leaned more into the comedy and less into trying to make like some serious Shyamalan like twist at the end, I think they could have had a much funnier, much more satirical movie, to
Gave
be
you the
honest with you.
Shyamalan twist.
It's funny because like Logan was watching, he was like, "Oh man, this seems like a sitcom," with Eugene and his wife there, Jamie, right? I think that was a nod to Jamie Lee Curtis too. with the wife.
Yeah.
Here's my question though: Jamie, Eugene's wife, she makes reference to escaping Eugene
I was fast, wasn't I, Eugene?
You sure were.
and like being his final girl, right? There was some scene where
I
she's
got
like,
that, but
"Oh,
like
I escaped you."
I
and
don't
got-
think she needed to say that. That I was
Yeah.
like feeling that like, so he just retired, and I was like, and now he's just living with this girl, and she seems very like, oh, he's just in the backyard.
Well, there were references to like, wait a minute, why is he doing this shit if he's
Yeah.
still retired?
Yeah.
Well, every great man is
Like
ever done.
me and Dan were talking earlier. One of the best scenes is when Taylor is interviewing Eugene and his wife right before Leslie's gonna do his big job here. And she asked them verbatim,
Yeah.
how does someone escape somebody like you? And I thought that was such a cool foreshadowing. And, they gave the whole, oh, you gotta have someone slower than you. And Eugene's like, you gotta run like a motherfucker.
The simple answer is, Run like a motherfucker and don't stop till the sun comes up.
Don't look back.
Just keep going. See, and see, there were so many sparkles in this movie, and like all of the guest stars that they got, Robert Englund, and horror and comedy, they can go together. I mean, I've seen it; it's been done well. This actually kind of spurred me to watch two of my other favorite kind of like horror comedy movies, which would be you've got Ash and the Evil Dead, that whole situation. That's horror and comedy. You've got Dale and Tucker versus Evil.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but that movie is hilarious and at times a little scary. And then like you got like Cabin in the Woods too.
Yes.
But I look at those movies and then I know we're picking on a smaller indie movie, so I don't want to be too harsh on it. But you look at those movies compared to this movie, and it's like if this movie had just almost leaned into it more and tried to be less serious, I think it would have been more fun, and it would have been less of like, I don't know, less like off-putting to me.
I got you.
I like that it's off-putting though, because it's not supposed to be a normal horror movie. It's supposed to be its very own thing. Like, I like independent movies because they're unique, and this is exactly what this movie is. I've never seen a movie like it.
I wouldn't call it a horror movie though.
Yeah, that's almost
like,
where I would.
To Bearclaw's point, where it loses some folks is that it's not just like a comedy, and it's not horror comedy. It's they literally took one type of movie and another type of movie and tried to sew them together.
Yeah.
I got you.
And it's hard to differentiate. Am I in the mood to watch this mockumentary spoof thing, or is this like a horror thing? Like, how am I supposed to gauge myself when watching this kind of thing? It's very kind of confusing at times.
I can see your points. I definitely can see your points, but I agree with Logan. Like, I think it's something that is unique. Like, because
it's absolutely
it's
unique.
Caught in the middle. Like, is that a good thing? To some people, it is. Like myself, I liked it a lot. Like you, like it was off-putting. You know what I mean? And I think that to me goes to a big reason why this movie didn't have a huge box office return. And I think this is part of the reason why the sequel didn't happen, and this is part of the reason why this is a cult classic at the same time, and it's beloved by some horror people in the community. This actually is one of Robert Englund's favorite movies. He said that if Quentin Tarantino gave him a double matinee in a theater, what would he want? And he said, this is one of the movies I want in there.
Yeah, and let me be specific. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's a bad horror movie.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
that would be more what I would say. I think it's a bad horror movie because, like, in my mind, horror movies, and I was watching. I'm kind of a Neil Gaiman nerd. I like. Does anybody here watch Sandman?
Yeah,
Sandman. Like, that was really cool. I've read the comics.
The comic books
are way better.
The comics are way
but,
better.
But like, it's one of those things where like, I think about like the Corinthian in that story, and he talks about like, when Dream is talking. For those of you who don't know, it's like this god of dreams, and he's talking to this nightmare that he's created. Right? He's talking to the nightmare, and he says, "I brought you into this world to serve humanity, not feed upon it. You were supposed to be a dark mirror to reflect everything humanity will not confront." And it got me thinking, like, okay, well, if this isn't great horror, what is great horror? And I would say that great horror is something that shows us something that is terrified, or at least, like, for me, and maybe this is my interpretation, it gives us something that we're scared of. And then, like, there is some kind of either overcoming it or, or at least acknowledging it and understanding it maybe a little bit more and facing it. You've got like Black Christmas, which you could think about like fighting the unexpected. Who would ever see Billy hanging out in the attic? You've got Hereditary, facing family trauma. Like, of course, that movie doesn't end well for everybody, but it's about acknowledging and confronting that fear. And that's what makes it great horror. Halloween, the unstoppable evil, confronting that unstoppable evil. And like, that's the stuff in my mind that makes like great horror.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree with everything you said. I think in this movie does horror differently. I think there is underlying horror, and there is like scenes of horror, true horror. I'll give you a great example, right? They're about to do Leslie's big job here, and they're waiting behind in that bedroom, the staging area that he said, right? And he's lined up that the first couple is going to go in there and they're going to start having sex. Going to give him some time to get frisky. He's already staged it up. He knows what's going to happen, right? The documentary crew has also already heard his plan, and they know what's going to happen. So if they're in the staging room, Leslie getting ready, right? Puts the mask on, hand side out, curtain back. Now, we don't see the actual murders. What we see is Taylor. And what we hear is the murders. And if you hear that, right? If you hear in the other room what's going on, it's vicious. It's violent. It's not like a quick, ooh, ooh, you know. It's like sounds of mutilation. Curtain comes back. Whoop. He's back. Voila. Like, to me, that is scary. And especially if you're looking at Taylor the whole time when those sounds are happening, her face is like drops like a ghost, you know, like white as a ghost.
Like this is real kind of thing.
This is like fucked up. Like, this is, what were we thinking? Like, it's a realization moment. And
so to kind of backtrack on that, actually, you know what? I'm going to save that for the hook, line, and stinker.
Ooh.
Okay.
Little tease.
Oh, you're teasing us. Stop doing it.
A little tease.
I think I gotta agree with Bearclaw a little bit, because he did bring up. I gotta respect the man. He did bring up Sandman, which is like one of my favorite. It's so underrated. No one really talks about it as much.
It's like the greatest thing in the world.
It's so good. It's so well done. It's not as good as comic books, but it is damn good.
Yeah.
But like, the one thing I will say about horror movies is they always have a consistent theme. And I like that you brought that up, that it always has like, what is supposed to be scary in this movie? And for this movie, I think it's that you don't know what to expect. Just like Black Christmas, it's the unexpected that happens. And, you know, like in life, you know, we see these things that happen, and it's very like, you know, we've seen people that are, you know, stalkers. Like, that's a very real thing in this world, unfortunately. And I think what they really go into is that, like, these stalkers are crazy people. Like, these stalkers are people that are obsessed with one thing only. And I think that's what's scary, is the obsession.
Well, how about that scene where he brings the documentary crew to the school in the van? And they're, you know, he's talking about the groups, you know, like, it was funny too. He's like, those guys are slow.
They don't move quite as fast when you get them on the run, so they're good to pad your numbers with late in the game.
Like, they'll pad your numbers.
That girl's a definite
pad
virgin.
your numbers. Yeah. And I mean, he talks about it so cavalier. And I mean, it's just, I also feel that I don't connect, like, I don't feel like there's stakes sometimes to it either. Like, what are the stakes? What are the stakes?
Yeah, I think, so I think that becomes a realization when the documentary crew and Taylor realize
this is real.
This is real, but also that Leslie's changed the plan. They think.
Yeah.
They don't realize this has been Leslie's plan all along.
Square one, day one, yeah.
So
that was actually going to be one of my discussion questions. Do you think it is more impressive that he planned it all the way out to a T, or do you think it's more impressive that he would be able to improv on the fly?
No, because he's a serial killer. You know, he knows like what these people are thinking. He knows the ins and outs of this place. Like it's the back of his hand. He knows all the escape routes. He knows all where it is.
He cuts the trees.
Why would he put a flame retardant on his face?
Okay, this is it. This is what I want to bring up, and I'm so happy that Dan mentioned this and then Bearclaw. I've seen this movie a lot of times, right? And I've had many watches. I've always enjoyed it. My gripe is if you stay to the end of the movie in the credits, there's I guess a credit scene, not really a post-credit scene, right?
Yeah, it's a credit scene.
While it's going on, and they play Psycho Killer, such a fucking
love that
awesome
song.
Psycho Killer.
Oh my God. And we're in a morgue, security camera. At the very end, Leslie sits up, right?
Yep.
And it always bothered me. And at the same time, I was always thinking like, okay, well, yeah, this is a very common slasher trope.
Yeah.
Like the killer's never dead. Fuck me. He planned this from the beginning.
Yep.
He knew exactly what was going to happen.
Well,
he put the flame retardant on him.
Yep.
He knew it.
He's obsessed. He's obsessed with one thing, getting what he wants. These serial killers, they know exactly what these people are going to do. And he planned this. He planned it exactly.
It worked like just what he wanted.
He led her. She knew where he wanted to go. And he knew that she was going to go in there. He knew that she was going to overpower him and was going to use the thing just like he had planned. And I think that's why, like, he told her the plan. He told her, like, certain aspects of the plan because he knew what she was going to go to.
Well, they're like tricks of the trade.
Yeah.
It's like he's a craftsman.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, when he has his head in the press and he takes his mask off and he's like, I knew it was you, right? Like,
yeah.
And that's just, it's like, that was the culmination. Like, that's what he wanted. He wanted this.
He didn't want death. He wanted to know if she would really do it.
I'm telling you, man, when it struck me this view, like, fuck, he knew he was going to be burned alive. He knew it.
I just knew, like, as soon as she said, "Wait, she's not a virgin," I was like, well, and to be honest with you, I knew the movie was going to go one of two ways. Either the main reporter was either going to become a final girl, or she was going to take his spot as a serial killer. It was going to go.
I
one
really
of those.
wanted that one.
Yeah, I really wanted that one too. But it was either going to be she's the final girl and she like kind of falls in love with him, but like, and you see her kind of starting to fall for him, or like,
well, Dan and me were just talking about this too, like the chemistry between Angela Goethals and Nathan Baesel. It really came across the screen so well. And Dan, you were saying you thought they were even like married, right? Like,
yeah, like this. I've only seen this movie, I think, one other time, and that was like when you had us over for like a horror movie night or whatever. But like on my second watch through of this, and not like looking at like all the director details and cast line, yada yada yada, like it's like they act so well together that I thought this was like a duo, like writing, producing, directing this project. Like this was their like brain trust. This was their baby, kind of say this. That's how good.
Yeah.
Like I thought they were a married couple.
Yeah.
Trying to make this dream happen.
There was a lot of tension.
There was, but like Bearclaw is saying, are they in love? There was this.
There is. Yeah.
Very intimate connection.
Maybe that'll get into the sequel.
Well, in the sequel, I guess he marries Eugene's wife.
Speaking of sequels, right? This was supposed to have a sequel.
Yeah.
It was called Before the Mask, The Return of Leslie Vernon.
We tried real hard to get the comic books. Couldn't get our hands on them. It just, it's 6 issues.
Guys, if
anybody out there has any means of getting those or has those comic books, we'd love to read them. It is just, we cannot.
Email us at the padded room at
yeah.
outlook.com and let us know, because I think it would be cool to read, because I believe the comic book was done in 2017, and it was done based on the actual script of the movie. And it was
supposed to be both like a prequel and a sequel at the same time. I guess there's like a couple of the issues that happened before, and then a couple issues that happened after.
Yeah, I was reading too that I guess the premise was supposed to be a film within a film, where there was going to be this was going to be the Harvest Murders movie.
Oh.
And they were going to bring Nathan Baesel back and Angela Goethals, which would have been cool. One of the things I had read too is for years they were trying to get this done. There was an MTV series they had pitched. It didn't go well. Adam Goldberg of the Goldbergs, he came on as an executive producer to try to get this movie made. It didn't work. They had a Kickstarter. They weren't able to earn enough money to get the remake made. They did have some interest from a big studio to actually remake this movie, and they wouldn't give up the rights because they really wanted Nathan Baesel and Angela Goethals back. And I guess the production company, the new one that wanted to do the remake, wanted big time actors. They don't want.
I don't like that. I don't like that with I feel like that's the problem with sequels or any kind of remakes is that like they always try to get like these big names, and I'm always like, no, I want people that are underrated. I want people that aren't really talked about.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get people in the limelight. Like, I hate...
They want to try to draw as many eyes to the IP as possible, though.
Yeah.
Money.
That's why I hate money.
I could have told you from the balance sheet there's a reason this movie didn't get remade.
Yeah.
My question, though, for you guys is, like, would you like to see a sequel made? I know it's kind of late at this point in the game.
It's late, so no. But if they had gone back, if we had a time machine, maybe.
The director kind of said it best. It's kind of like the moment of, like, it's past.
The moment's
past.
Yeah. Didn't he say something to that effect?
Yeah,
then a couple of the actors are dead.
Yeah, it's just one. It's like
Eugene died.
You'd almost probably be better off starting it like square one.
Robert Englund's gonna be like 80 soon.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, I was thinking like maybe a cool concept would be Nathan Baesel to come back as like a Eugene type of character.
Oh, yeah.
That could work. That could work.
You could make a very competent horror comedy out of this.
Yeah.
There's not a doubt in my mind. It's just you got to really lean into more of the comedy than.
Right.
You got to do it right. So you can't just get like these big level actors. You got to like kind of start from the beginning and kind of go into it. Like you could have him become Eugene, but the problem is I feel like you'd also lose like the sense of like, you know, the first original movie, you know, like the first one works because of, well, the acting, the tension between all the characters, and just this unnerving presence of like every single one of them fitting into this whole world. But like, if you do a sequel, I feel like you're going to lose that. You're going to lose it. And like most horror sequels do.
I agree. I think you're going to lose some of the uniqueness of what this is.
This isn't unique if you're just going to restart it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's cool too. Like Bearclaw said, there is a promo video out there you can find on YouTube from Nathan Baesel and the actress who plays Jamie doing the Leslie Vernon and Jamie characters on their Kickstarter. Like I think it was like a promo to try to have people donate.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's very cool. Nathan Baesel also did Dead Meat, the kill count. He came.
Yep, I watched that.
He's
That was
been
really
on a
great.
couple cool podcasts. In fact, we're friends with one XHR podcast that had him on for 15 minutes. He seems like a cool, down-to-earth guy.
They always do.
But this is like his baby, you know? Like he has pride in this. So I think it's kind of cool too. It's almost like a, you know, it's kind of a timepiece. It's in a nice.
It's not a bad movie.
No,
it's a fun.
We never said it was. We never ever said it was bad. I don't think there's a person that can say like it's a bad, like it's enjoyable.
Well, we got to talk about some of the Easter eggs in this. We mentioned some of them. You know, we got the big ones. Robert Englund plays Doc Halloran. Doc Halloran was the, like Bearclaw said, the shining influence with Doc and Dick Halloran. At the beginning, it's a classic. I love the opening where Taylor is, and they use real footage from Camp Crystal Lake. They use real footage from Haddonfield.
Yep.
And they use real footage from Springwood, and including Kane Hodder walks into the Nightmare on Elm Street house, Nancy's house.
Yes. Kane Hodder is yep.
It was kind of a cool thing. Taylor at the beginning too, she's walking down like a main street and you see a Rabbit in Red lounge sign. That is a Halloween reference from the Matchbox from Dr. Loomis there. Angela Goethals, Logan said this earlier to us and ruined my day because I thought I was going to surprise everybody. Is from Home Alone. She was one of Kevin's sisters.
Yeah.
I believe she does the Les Incompetents.
Yeah, she was. You are what the French say. Who cares what the French say?
Dang, man.
I don't like the French.
I fart in your general direction.
Oh my God! All right to us at the padded room.
I'll look to
Logan because I don't want.
Logan, right? There's not many places you can travel to at this point, Logan.
Yeah, it's okay. I like it here.
He likes his freedom.
Yeah.
America.
Not like the French.
Oh my God!
With their baguettes and cigarettes.
Like Bearclaw had said too, Nathan Baesel's turtles are called Church, who was the cat in Pet Sematary, and the other one was Zoe, which was the dog in Pet Sematary too.
Yep.
And I love that the turtles kind of thing was so funny.
I can't believe they're not dead.
I forgot to go away.
They go away and forgot to feed them. And
little bastards just won't die. I love that. We have the classic scene when they're at the school and they're looking at the groups of students and picking out the survivor girl. The camera pans by girls jumping rope, like in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
That was a cool thing. Bearclaw mentioned the Hellraiser box in Eugene's house, hanging out on a side table, just hanging out there.
Just, for people to pick up and play, try and see if they can solve it, quick.
Well, Leslie's real last name, Mancuso, is a nod to Nick Mancuso, who plays the voice of Billy in Black Christmas. The scene where Leslie Vernon is putting on the fire retardant on his face in front of the mirror, the song at the end of The Shining is playing while he does that.
I think there's a picture in the room or something like that too, isn't there?
There's also a picture that has twins in the mirror as well, which is supposed to be a nod to The Shining. Yeah. I couldn't find too much on that, so I don't know if that's exactly true, but
that's about right.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, it's cool. Like the Easter eggs I thought were cool nods. I didn't feel like they beat you over the head with them, but they were there. And
they were subtle.
Yeah. And listen, again, I think if you're a true horror movie fan, this is a must watch because there are a lot of things for all of us in this. And like Bearclaw said, maybe, it's off-putting to you. And then like me, maybe you find it awesome. I don't know. We're stuck in between. Well, I think we're on to our favorite segment, Hook, Line, and Stinker. Hook is our favorite kill in the movie. Line is our favorite line or quote in the movie. And Stinker is something that we find funny that happened or weird or something that can make it better or worse.
Usually worse.
Definitely can happen. For me, my hook is Leslie's death in the cider press or the apple press.
Oh. He doesn't die.
He doesn't die.
So yeah, this is kind of a gray area.
Yeah.
It's kind of a gray area, and I agree with you, but I do kind of want to put my line in with this too, so I'm cheating because I love when he takes his mask off and he says, "Taylor, you were the one." It just...
Well, maybe he did die. Maybe he stood up on the table and then just fell down.
Yeah, I mean, it could.
Yeah, he did get burned.
Yeah, so, and just one more line, because there were so many great one-liners in this movie, I thought. When he was in the library and he pulls out a book behind him and goes,
Paradise Lost. Found it.
Found it.
Found it.
And you know what we didn't mention too? A cool little Easter egg is Zelda Rubinstein from Poltergeist is the librarian in that as well. So it's pretty cool. My stinker. I wanted more Robert Englund in this movie. Like a lot more Robert
Englund was definitely the standout in this movie.
Because I remember too, like seeing the cover in Blockbuster and be like, Robert Englund.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Like,
came in for his 2 minutes of fame.
Count me in. Yeah. And he didn't have that many lines. And I wanted more of him. Like, I thought.
Dad, you'll be seeing a lot more of him. No, we won't.
And obviously, he's a nod to Dr. Loomis there too. But I thought it was cool. And actually, I hate to say it, like, it would have been cool. I mean, now he might be a little bit old, but it would have been cool to maybe see him in a remake.
I was going to say, it would have been cool. Loomis. He looked like he would have played that role in a different movie. Really, like I would definitely watch that. Him being like some type of paranormal investigator or something, or I don't know, something like.
Dude, the scene in this when he comes up to Taylor and Todd at the diner, I was kind of scared.
Yeah,
it's like holy shit. He comes over to him. He's like,
"Why are you following this girl?
What are you doing following this girl around?
What are you doing following this girl around?"
It would have been great if he called her a bitch.
You little bitch.
All right, Dan, what do you have for this?
My hook is stoner kid getting his heart torn out and served in his hand with a post hole digger.
Yes,
that's pretty bad.
pretty awesome.
Really
Just-
the only gore in this movie.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I think it's just the way it's cut too. Like, I don't know, it's funny the way it's cut. Like, going back to what Bearclaw, I like it, but going back to what Bearclaw was saying is like, what is this film trying to be? Are you trying to scare me or are you trying to make me laugh? It is the most gory scene, but I still find it funny.
You know what's cool that you mentioned that too with the editing and how it's shot? This film was edited by a local group of students. Scott Glosserman had seen one of their college movies and he loved it, and he had them actually edit this movie for him. It's kind of crazy.
That is interesting.
That is crazy.
My line is from the stakeout in the library before they do the library, the red herring scene. It's Taylor, Mark, Daniel, Curtis. Is he related to Kelly? Leslie. He's her great uncle. Well, supposedly. Wow, he looks just like her.
It is her. It's computer-generated image.
Pretty good, huh? She doesn't have a great uncle, at least that I know of.
I love that.
And the cut to the picture is what does it for me. Is just that mangled face on like a male like silhouette.
Yeah.
So it's just that deadpan humor is what I love about this movie. For me, stinker, returning. Leslie kills the librarian and the film crew don't react to it, but later react to Leslie killing in the third act. I wonder, with this being such a well thought out movie, if it were done on purpose, but that wasn't really my impression.
So actually it was done on purpose. This is something that I'm glad you brought up. It was done on purpose because I remember too in my first couple watches being like, well, what the fuck? Did she get killed or what happened here? They do it subtly because they don't want this to be a big moment yet, because this is supposed to be a red herring. This is not supposed to have impact.
So it's a literal play on the words, red herring itself.
And not only is it not supposed to be an impact for Kelly and the other characters in the movie, but for us as the viewer, because the first actual kill is that scene I talked about earlier where you just hear it in the other room, and they wanted that to be the actual impact. So like if you understand and those sounds and everything they did with that, that's why they wanted that impact to be more on the viewer itself, because then they want you to realize like, okay, well, what the fuck? Like,
I respect the intention of it. It just that didn't read that.
It
didn't come through for me. But so that's me on the Bearclaw.
Awesome. So Hook, I'll make this quick. Come on, this is the post hole digger. He said, so you know, if somebody comes out with this shed, then I'm hitting with the post hole digger. And he hit him with the post hole digger, and that was fun, and that was very horror movie like, and I appreciated that as far as the hook goes. Not a lot of hooks in this movie though. I remember reading the kill count. There was only like 6 kills in total or something like that. One of them, I was going to do the pitchfork kill. Actually, honorable mention goes to the pitchfork kill just because everybody hated that in the Halloween movie. I thought that was very terrifying in the Halloween movie.
Can I really quick? There's another honorable mention too. It's in the barn where they hanging. He gets hung.
Yeah.
It's a throwback to Friday the 13th Part 3.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where the guy's hung in the barn. You're right.
Yep. Awesome. The line that I had was the Paradise Lost, found it. Like that line that you had. I thought that was a great line.
It was.
See, that was kind of like, to me, that was like a peak of the horror comedy that this movie could have been. It could have been a lot wittier, a lot like that. And then the stinker, I have discussion of the old days, the business. We need evil to inspire good. It's just like flimsy. It kind of undercuts some of the movie. I don't know. Like, I dig the whole like Eugene like being a mentor and like there being like that buddy aspect to it. But like, I don't think there was enough fun had with that. I don't know. Like trying to justify these kind of monsters, I think, you know, takes away from it overall. So that was my stinker. Logan, what do you got?
Well, I did have for Hook, I did have the hanging as my hook. I really liked that.
Yeah.
That was the one that really. Well, I knew somebody was gonna say it, so I'm just even though like that was kind of your honorable mention, so I'm just gonna say it was definitely my favorite one. that happened.
I remember
because,
you reacted to it too. You're like,
yeah,
whoa.
I was like, holy shit, like that was good. Like that was the one kill I was like, yeah, you gotta have one of those. Like you gotta have, because that was like the one thing I was kind of like thinking about. I'm like, going into this movie, like I was like, there's gonna be some good kills in this at the end, because I was like, okay, they're going into the cinematic, so you know the stuff's gonna happen, and you know there's gonna be some big kills. I originally thought, like, it's either gonna be Todd or Doug getting like a pretty nasty kill like that. I thought they were gonna either get hanged or they were just gonna get like killed like really brutally. Like I know Todd did, but he got his off screen, and Doug didn't for some reason because he's Doug. He gets hit in the head with like a just hit in the head. So
yeah, he gets pushed against the wall. I liked after the hanging too, like Leslie, he like threw the guy so forcefully,
an Undertaker,
that he fell, and then he sits up, does the Michael Myers or the
kind
Undertaker.
of like the ending.
Yeah, yep, yeah.
So for line, I did have Doug. What kind of survivor girl passes out in a pinch? Todd.
What kind of survivor girl hops on the Nerdy Kids Johnson like it's a pogo stick?
Okay. I love that, because it's like it's one of those lines that's kind of like missed from reality. Like, you know, you're having this kind of like killer going after you, but you still got to make some fun out of it.
I love too that that's the first indication to the audience that like, what the fuck?
What?
Because she's supposed to be the survivor girl. She's supposed to be a virgin,
yeah.
right?
And she's just
there is an honorable mention where he does go to that school and he's like,
Look at her. She's a virgin. I mean, you're not getting that?
he's got to be a virgin. And then for Stinker, I did have like anything that has to do with Leslie's backstory. It was just unnecessary. I don't really care about this, so it was unnecessary, and for me, that's why it's a Stinker. It didn't need to happen, so just get past it.
We're on to our final rating.
They're gonna rate the movie. What will they rate the movie? The killer is great, the victim sucks, the survivor is in between. What was that?
Now, for our rating system, killer is something that is awesome, that is a must-watch, that we definitely recommend. Survivor is our middle tier. It was nothing amazing, but we would definitely rewatch it and recommend this. Victim is that we were all the victim. This was not a good movie, no rewatchability, and we don't recommend it to our viewers or audience. For me, I'm giving this a killer.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I know.
Shocker!
It's my pick. It's one of my go-tos.
Give it a Survivor.
The reason why I picked this as a killer, though, is because for me, this is one of the most unique movies I've ever seen. And yeah, I definitely listen. I'm not wearing rose-colored glasses on it. I get it's definitely rubbed some people the wrong way and not maybe the best watch for some people. I totally understand that. But for me and my rating, come at me. Write to me.
Nah.
You write to us at thepaddedroom@outlook.com.
I just thought that this was something that was completely different from anything I had seen. I still remember my first watch with this movie, which is awesome. I don't remember that with too many other movies. It had that big of impact on me. I do think the twist hit good for me because I didn't see it coming as Taylor being the final girl. I really didn't. So when the girl Kelly is riding the dude in the bedroom, that hit me hard in more ways than one. But like it really had.
I knew it was gonna happen.
It had an impact on me because I was like, oh shit. And, you know, and when it goes from the found footage style to the cinematic, I know it rubs people the wrong way too, of like going between these two styles of shooting a movie, but it works so well. And especially the final act when it goes to the all cinematic, because it is the payoff. And I read a couple people's reviews saying like the third act didn't hit for them. And I can see that in a way, but like there had to be a payoff. And this was the payoff.
That was a good payoff.
You know, Leslie Vernon, Nathan Baesel as Leslie Vernon is such a great character. His acting was great. He became this character. He brought this character to life. The Mask, which we didn't touch on too much, was so cool too.
Yeah, I like The Mask.
It didn't have enough screen time, though.
I didn't like the murder weapon, though. I thought the murder weapon was a little bit meh.
They don't really use it, though.
Yeah, they don't even use it.
I think he had 1 kill with it, right?
Yeah.
Or no, 2 kills technically with the librarian. But, you know, what's cool, too, what I found out is there's a reason why it looks like the way it does, too. It has a turtle-esque look because in the fake backstory of Leslie Vernon,
his face was something was eaten by turtles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they actually purposely did it the way they did, which I thought was cool. For me, like I said in the opener, if you are a horror fan, I think this is a must watch. I think at least you'll have fun with it. You know, it's a fun fucking movie. So go watch it. Fuck these other guys. All right, Dan.
All right.
You.
Well,
I love you all. I'm just kidding.
I know. We know. I give this movie a survivor. The things that I really enjoy most is the mockumentary aspect of it. About 45 minutes into it, I found myself kind of like, all right, so like this is Reno 911 if it were a horror movie.
Oh.
Like
That's an awesome concept. They should do that. They should have done that.
They did. It's this movie. Like they're similar in respects because like they're both content that parody. And I just think some of the dialogue and the deadpan delivery, like, kind of impressed that on me. Like, I think we were talking about this earlier, where he's like explaining how it's like a pre-made pie on the bake, like on a cooking show, and he's trying to sell it to Leslie, and Leslie's just deadpan, no selling it, just like, shut the fuck up already.
Like, I don't know what this guy's talking about.
Like, just like that deadpan, and like every character kind of has like this social awkwardness energy to them that I really think is fun, and just kind of watching them, following them along as things get real for them really fast. I like the twist of this mockumentary kind of turning into a slasher by the third act. And the thing I really, really love is how they did that with, you know, the first 2 acts of the movie are primarily shot with a camcorder. Mm-hmm. And we kind of touched on this. And then it transitions over into this third act that is a cinematic event. And then that's kind of where the movie kind of loses me, where like this for me falls out of the killer range and into the survivor. It's like right there for me. But it's just like, to your point, like I didn't feel like there was that big of a payoff to it. And just the fact that at the end we learned that this was all planned all the way down to the T. It's a clever concept. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't hit me in the feels.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Bearclaw.
All right, so I feel bad. I feel like I'm looking at Kevin as I'm old yellering his dog or something.
That's all right,
looking
Bearclaw. Put it down. Put it down.
Look you in the eye when I do this.
Oh Jesus! Got a little hot in here.
No.
Cue the saxophone music.
No. So like
palpable. It's raw.
It's raw. So my take on this movie is I think that there are some interesting things to it. I think it's okay to watch if you want to watch it. I don't know that it's necessarily, I don't even know that I would call it maybe a horror movie. For that reason, it has to be a victim for me. And it's just because I don't know that you're going to get a lot out of it. I don't know that it really, I kind of thought it was pretty predictable, and the stakes weren't ever meaningful to me, so I didn't really care what happened. And then, I mean, yes, I think it's an interesting movie. You know, we keep saying unique, not always valuable, you know, but it is unique. I will say that. But as far as I think my line in the sand is, if it would I say that this is even peripherally required horror watching, and I would say I would struggle to classify this as a horror movie. So for that reason, I'm calling it a victim.
Well, I gotta say, Dad, this was a killer.
Whoa.
Father and son.
Wow.
Whoa.
Dude, wow. I really enjoyed this movie. And you know, I think what really helped with
Look at the
it
pride on
is
his face.
know.
Look at that
gleaming
pride.
right now.
Look at pride.
God, get over yourself.
No, hang on. I got downplayed or I'll change his rating. All right, keep going.
Okay, it's down to a victim. No, I really enjoy this movie because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know the plot. I didn't know like any of these what was gonna happen, and I found myself really getting into like enjoy the movie. And I think the twist was where it really got me, where I was like, okay, I'm into this. This is awesome. Like the second they do that, I was like, okay, now we're into the real stuff. Because like the beginning was good because I liked it how it was very unique, but then it went into like this cinematic, like, okay, now we're in a horror movie, and I really enjoyed it because it was like we were getting a chance to see these characters interact with each other. And they obviously had nothing involved with each other, but it was all planned by this crazy person. I like how it all unfolded into the third act. So like this entire movie was kind of just a tale of three parts.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
And I think that's like a perfect way to describe it, because like most movies, you want that. You want these kind of unraveling stories that go into like these kind of different tones. Like you don't want to see the same movie.
Right.
So for this, I will say, because why I say it's a killer is because it's unique. It's its own movie. And I think like I definitely recommend this because it was very enjoyable. It never lost me. Like it never lost me truly. Like I was still into it because I just want to see how it went, how it was going to end.
You know what? I'm going to point out, Logan rated Leslie Vernon a killer, but he rated Nightmare on Elm Street a survivor.
Woo! Wow.
One more for the good guys.
Wow.
All right, Nathan. Nathan, our
I'm curious to hear. Wait, what is our fearless producer?
Yeah, Nathan, our
because
producer.
I'm very curious.
You know, it's funny because this movie for Nathan, he's not a huge slasher fan, but he actually rated this one a survivor. He says it's a fun satire of the genre, and I enjoyed it, but it probably would have been better as a short film, despite only being an hour and a half long.
That's a good point.
He thinks it overstayed its welcome. Also,
that's a good
he
one
saw
too.
the twist coming from 200 miles away.
I could have guessed. Like what Bearclaw said, the two different directions. Yeah,
they weren't trying too hard to hide that anyway. That's
I thought either they were gonna be partners in crime, or she was gonna be killed.
It's cool that you brought that up, because I think that would have been a cool way to go too.
Or like he couldn't go through with it at the end, and then she goes through with it. Like she's like, no, the evil must or something like that, or like takes that turn.
Yeah, she no, there must be evil.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it or something like that.
Well, like she really just
dove in.
Yeah, all
into the madness.
Dove into the madness, man.
See, yeah.
We also asked our audience what their thoughts were on Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. So let's check our Instagram, and that's @mouths.of.madness. And this is from the XHR_podcast. Gonna scare the poop out of them. We love this movie. Even got to do a brief interview with Nathan Baesel about it, one of our favorite episodes. And like I had said earlier, they do about a 15-minute interview with him. It is their episode 15. You can find them all on all the major audio platforms. Please go check it out, because I think Nathan Baesel came across as like just a cool fucking dude, man.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like a cool guy, dude, man. Yeah,
and
he's a great actor.
Yeah.
I mean, his acting was superb in this.
You know what we didn't talk about? Why didn't he do any like other movies?
I feel like he was very talented throughout.
He didn't want to. He wanted to stay true to what he was.
Well,
and that was Leslie Vernon.
Yeah, this is like his baby. If you listen to the interview, like he has tremendous pride in this movie. Which
maybe
I think
he was
awesome.
in other movies, but
wasn't he a theater actor before this?
I
that
believe he was.
sense.
And I think actually right now he's a teacher at an acting school, I believe. I mean, I think he mentions that in their interview too. So definitely go check it out. On our Facebook page, we have a comment from the Hathaway House of Horror. Love this movie. Yeah, I mean, this, to me, I think this is one of the best unheard of horror movies, because I think there are a lot of people who haven't heard of
this. This is a hidden gem.
Yeah, and I think you should check it out, or, if you have seen it, let us know your thoughts.
Yeah.
Email Bearclaw at thepaddedroom@outlook.com and let him know he's an asshole for rating this amazing.
Let me know why I'm wrong. Let's talk, because, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Help me understand.
Help me to see.
Like I've said before, I think what makes horror movies especially cool is they're so different and they hit us all differently. And
yeah,
I mean, we don't want to be a podcaster. We just fucking all have the same opinion.
Yeah, everything's great and everything's and that's like with the relationship of horror, like how it relates. Because I think fear is kind of interesting because everybody handles it differently. And it's based on your, on I'm sure a lot of different variables, but I mean, just, that fear, that instinct. What are you looking to get out of a horror movie? That's kind of, that's always a very interesting question. And, it's kind of curious to hear some of the different answers.
We're kind of a podcast of juxtaposition, might you say?
I know the pieces fit, Logan.
Yeah.
Now, we'll be back again soon with another episode, and we're going to be doing Dan's pick on 28 Days Later.
Oh, jam.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, so look for that soon, but until then, back to the padded room with you.
After tonight, I'll either be in hiding, locked up, or dead.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you, Les.
Fellas, it's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Welcome to the magic.
No.
Boo!
Boo. No, too early.
This is the cold open, damn it!
This is cold open first. Nathan, don't use that.
Don't fucking tell me what to do, Kevin.
You're fired.
Okay.
Oh, man.